Hi, and welcome to our very first PCC Healthy Hour. My name is Vir, and I'm a health educator at Student Health Services.
And my name is Nairy, and I'm a health educator at Student Health Services.
So today we have our registered dietitian from Student Health Services, Lorrie Gray, who will be talking about nutritional counseling.
Thank you for joining us today, Lorrie.
Thanks for having me.
So you pay $21 health fee during fall and spring and $18 during summer and winter intersession. That covers nutritional counseling services. Now let's learn about nutritional counseling and what it has to offer. Lorrie, can you please tell us about your background and your journey to becoming a registered dietitian?
Sure. Well, my journey to become a registered dietitian wasn't really a straight path. To begin, I'm a native of Southern California. I grew up in Monterey Park, and growing up, I liked health and science classes that I took in school. So I was pretty certain from an early age that I wanted to work in a health-related field. But I was focused on becoming a veterinarian. So after I graduated from high school, I started as a zoology major at Cal State LA. But during my second year of college, I felt I might be better prepared for applying to vet school by changing my major to animal science. So I transferred to UC Davis to pursue an animal science degree. The course load to prepare for applying to vet school was really overwhelming. It's not that different than the courses that someone needs to take who wants to go to medical school or go to dental school. And I can recall taking organic chemistry, genetics, physiology, and statistics all in one quarter. In addition, students who applied and ultimately got accepted into vet school typically had a 4.0 grade point average. And also there was only one vet school in California at that time, so I began to reevaluate whether I would even be able to achieve that goal. I had taken one nutrition class at UC Davis that I really liked, so I began to reevaluate what I could do with all those science classes that I had taken and my new interest in nutrition, which is what really led me to change my path to become a registered dietitian. Now, to become a registered dietitian, there are very specific courses that you do need to take, some of which I had, but there were more that I was going to need to take in order to become a registered dietitian. And also, these courses that you do have to take, you need to take because there's a required internship that you have to complete once you complete your bachelor's degree or coursework, and that's before you're going to be able to take a registration exam. So after graduation from UC Davis, I returned to Southern California. Northern California was way too cold for me, and I enrolled at Cal State LA again to get my master's degree in nutrition. And when I completed my master's degree, I was able to apply for a one-year internship, which I completed at Children's Hospital in LA. And that made a big step for me because now I was going to be able to take that national registration exam, which I did, and I passed. So I was finally a registered dietitian and now could be hired as a dietitian. And one of the things I wanted to share with students who might be interested or thinking about becoming a dietitian is definitely look well in advance at the coursework that you need. A good source of information is on our professional website, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. That's at eatright.org. And when you go to that, it's going to tell you exactly what you're going to have in order to be able to apply for an internship. It will tell you the colleges within California and throughout the United States that have what are called didactic programs, where someone can look to see if they can do that degree at the particular college. Now, most of the state colleges, they do have didactic programs. Some of our state colleges have a combined master's program with the internship. So there's lots of opportunities, but you got to know in advance. All right. And then keeping in mind that once you get that bachelor's degree and you've done the didactic program, you still have to apply to that one-year internship. Now that's become increasingly more competitive. And I think at this point now, about 50% of people who apply actually get in. And then once you have completed the internship, then you're ready for the national registration exam.
Wow. Thanks for all that advice, Lori. I think that's really helpful for any student who's really interested in doing what you do. But also, you know, they get to see that it's not always A to B. There could be so many things that cause you to change your mind, and it's a great story. It's really helpful to realize, you know, you don't have to know what you want to do right when you're 18. There's a little bit of time, and you'll end up where you want to end up. And it sounds like you really enjoy what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm very passionate about it. I really enjoy it, but it also has helped me because I still love animals. And I've been, you know, a cat owner, you know, for many, many years. Interestingly enough, I've had 2 cats that have had medical problems. One was an insulin-dependent diabetic, and the other one had inflammatory bowel disease. So my knowledge about nutrition and, you know, understanding how the disease process works, even though I didn't become a veterinarian, I was able to look after my animals very effectively.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Lori. So now we want to know, what does our registered dietitian do?
Okay. Well, one of the things that, you know, I wanted to look at as we were talking about this is how much the area has really expanded. Many times people's exposure to a registered dietitian might really be just in a clinical setting, like at a hospital or in our student health center. And that is primarily where dietitians do work. But you know, hospitals, clinics, other healthcare facilities, what dietitians are doing there is they're educating patients about nutrition, and they're administering what we call medically supervised or medically nutrition therapy as part of their functioning as part of the healthcare team. Also, more and more dietitians are now getting involved in sports nutrition and also corporate wellness programs. So particularly with sports nutrition, universities that have sports teams almost always have a dietitian now who's actually involved with that sports team. Or professional sports teams, you know, like the Rams or the Lakers, they'll have dietitians, again, who are looking after the nutritional needs of an athlete. There are dietitians that are what I call like corporate dietitians, and they're working in food and nutrition related businesses and industries. So they would be doing more of like communications, consumer affairs, public relations, marketing, you know, product development. These would be dietitians that you might think of would work like with Trader Joe's, or they might be working with Ralph's, or they might be working for Stouffer's, and they're going to be providing a lot of the nutritional information that consumers need to know about those products. There are dietitians now that actually establish private practices, and they're working independently. So they might be doing nutrition counseling with individuals privately, but they also can contract with businesses to provide nutrition consultations. And we don't want to forget about public health settings, like with our LA County Health Department. That is an area that dietitians have always been utilized as part of teaching and monitoring and advising the public about how to improve the quality of their life through healthy eating habits. And then finally, for those who are, you know, very much academically inclined, there are opportunities to just keep going. And dietitians obtain PhDs, and they become part of the faculty at medical schools or dental schools or universities, so they can do the education of up-and-coming physicians and dentists and other dietitians and physician assistants, but also they could be involved with ongoing research as well.
Great, thanks, Lori. I feel PCC is so fortunate to have such a unique service and have a registered dietitian on campus. So if you can please share, in your capacity as a registered dietitian at PCC, how can you help our students?
Okay, well, there's actually a number of reasons why a student might want to come and see a dietitian. And I think one of the more common reasons, probably the number one reasons that students come in to see me, is they're just concerned about the nutritional quality of their diet. And I almost think of this as being like they want to come in for a nutritional tune-up. And that's where they'll say, I'm not really sure if I'm eating well. I got these concerns about maybe I'm eating too much fast food or whatever it is. And I think that's a real good reason to come in, because we can look and see, well, where are you doing well? Where could you make some improvements? The next most common reason would be students who are coming in because they have concerns about weight management. So much of our population is really struggling with obesity, and there's a lot of information that's out there that just isn't really accurate, and people get pretty frustrated and they don't really know what to do. So if students want to address losing weight, we certainly can do that, but we're going to help them in a way where it's going to be a change that is sustainable and is going to be realistic, so that they can get going with it and be able to reach that goal. On the flip side, probably the third most common reason a student would come in is they have a goal to gain weight. We don't always appreciate that there are students who are significantly underweight, and it's actually harder to gain weight when you're underweight than it is to lose weight. But we don't always understand that. It might also be someone who wants to gain a particular type of weight, like someone who wants to increase muscle mass. And again, there are the right ways and wrong ways about going along with that. So if somebody wants to change their body composition, that would be, again, another one of these real popular, important reasons. Changing the pattern of how you're eating. There's a lot of interest in becoming vegan or vegetarian or going with a plant-based diet, but not always does someone who makes that change know if what they're doing is nutritionally adequate. Are there any nutrients that they're missing? So, an example, when I have students that are coming in to go over that they've been a vegetarian or a vegan for a number of years, very, very frequently, a nutrient that I find right off the bat that they're low in is calcium. And that's, true of a lot of our population. They just aren't eating foods that are good sources of calcium. It still can be met, but they need to have that knowledge of knowing what they've got to be sure to include. Another good reason to come in and see a dietitian, you just want to be proactive. You may have a family history where you've got family members that have diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and you want to decrease your risk of developing those. And through dietary modifications and changes in weight, if that's appropriate, those are certainly things a student could start to address to decrease that risk. It also could be that because they've had this concern of their risk of diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, they've had lab work done, maybe actually at our PCC student health services. And they come back with results that are showing that perhaps they're borderline diabetic or they have elevated cholesterol levels. Well, certainly those are things that we can start to address and talk about how they can make those modifications so that they can improve those lab values and that they can make the changes that will make them healthier and decrease actually developing the full-blown diabetes. Finally, one place I always enjoy is when students have just got questions about supplements. It's really challenging out there. There are all kinds of products on the market, and a lot of those products really don't have any evidence that they even work. There's not a lot of regulation on nutritional supplements. So if students come in, that's something that we can discuss is, well, do they work? Are they dangerous? Are they even necessary? Because it's $1 billion industry, and most of us don't really have the money to be buying products that aren't going to give us anything. To kind of tie into that, I certainly enjoy dispelling nutritional myths, and those will come about in the course many times of our nutrition counseling setting. And it could be something as simple as it's somebody who's been attempting to lose weight, but it turns out really the only things they've tried are these so-called over-the-counter fat blockers, which I'll tell you right off, do not work. There's nothing to that. Or taking something like apple cider vinegar. And again, it doesn't do anything. But until you understand how we gain weight and how we lose weight, which is what a dietitian can teach them, you don't really have the tools to know how to make the right choices.
That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing about what you do. I think in that same connection, you know, campus is closed right now, of course, but once it does resume, what would all of this look like? What would an in-person appointment look like?
Okay, well, the first thing that a student does need to do is they do need to make an appointment. And they would make that appointment through our student health services. And the appointment that we set up for them for that initial appointment, we do set aside 45 minutes. So, you know, it's going to be a quality visit. They're going to have plenty of time to ask questions and to be instructed about whatever their concern is. And we always want to be sure students know that be sure to allow for that amount of time. I can't really help someone if they show up late and we've only got 10 minutes. So 45 minutes is very important. The next thing that they'll need to do is to go to our students' health services website, and they can download a nutritional assessment form by going to the place on our website that has forms. And that nutritional assessment form that they're going to complete is going to give me information about what their activity level is. It will tell me, what their concern is, what's bringing them in to see me as a dietitian. It will give us information about how they're actually eating. As part of that, there's a 3-day food recall, which is real important for me because it helps me to better help them by being able to look at, well, what they actually eat, so we can know, well, where did they do well, where could they make some improvements. Now, when they come in for the appointment, the first thing I always like to ask them is really pretty straightforward. What's bringing them in to see me today? And what is it they want me to help them to accomplish? Because we want to know what they do want to address. I want to be sure that I don't get off onto a detour and not address what their concern or question is. When they come in, I'll be taking an accurate height and weight. That's very important as part of a nutrition evaluation. It helps us to know whether someone's weight or height, well, could be height, yeah, but definitely weight is within like a healthy range. There's not a perfect weight for anybody's height, but in a healthy range. And also, we can provide them with, or taking their body composition measurements. And particularly if they have that goal where they may want to increase muscle mass, or maybe they're thinking, I've got too much body fat. Well, you can't really tell those things just looking at a weight for a height. And when you are able to measure the body composition, measuring the percentage body fat, that gives you a better idea, and it helps the student to better know whether the goals they may have been setting for themselves are actually realistic or unrealistic. Again, there will be students who just think they must have too much body fat. And once they get that measurement and they find out they're well within that normal range, well then they've got some evidence that no, you really are not too fat. Okay, right. Now, when we're doing that 3-day food record, that's going to serve several purposes. It's going to help us to know, again, where they're doing well, and also it's going to help us to know like key nutrients they may be lacking in. And so we'll go over that together. And then finally, every student is going to leave with an individualized nutrition plan. And that is going to be covering, whatever it was they wanted to address, whether it was giving them the strategies for knowing how to be successful with losing weight or gaining weight, or what does it really take if you want to change your body composition to become more muscular. They'll have handouts, written materials. What I'm trying to do is to really equip them with what I call the tools so that they can then apply it to be successful in meeting what their goal is. And they'll also be encouraged to return for follow-up. I never want students to feel that this is a one shot, that you come in one time and that's it. The people who are going to do the best are the people who will come back for follow-up. And that really can vary based on what their needs are. But one of our real benefits in our student health services, there's no limit to how many appointments they can come and have with a dietitian. And it's not something you're going to solve necessarily overnight. So you definitely want to take advantage of that and keep coming until you're feeling comfortable that you're on your own path.
Great, thank you so much. And I want to reiterate that this is all part of the student health fee that students already pay for. So this is something students can utilize during the semester as long as they're currently enrolled in a class. They can make an appointment with you for free and utilize this service. So that is, that is some good information. Thank you so much for sharing, Lorrie. Lastly, our students are preparing for finals week. What dietary recommendations do you have for our students as they are studying and beginning to take their exams?
Okay, well, I think an important question to ask and answer first is this. Does how we eat influence our academic performance? And the answer is, it most certainly does. So there is absolutely evidence that students who eat nutritionally balanced meals do better academically than those who do not. So fueling your body with healthy foods, particularly during finals week, is vital to your success. And if you neglect to do so, your grades and your body, it can actually suffer from that. So some good tips to remember as you're getting ready for finals. First of all, don't skip meals. And you've probably all heard about the importance of eating breakfast. Well, that's absolutely true. And this is especially important during finals week. Starting your day with a meal. And it doesn't have to be, that you got to sit down and have like scrambled eggs and toast and a meal like that. But you got to start off with something is important, because when you're having that first meal, it's going to help you to stay energized for most of the day. But also, one of the things that's really important to remember about why you don't want to skip meals is that studying is not easy. But if you are not eating, you can be challenged by the fact that you're hungry, and that can become a distraction, particularly if you're in a test and you haven't eaten for, a long period of time that day, trying to concentrate on, that higher level math that you're doing while your stomach is grumbling and rumbling, it's going to be difficult to do it. So, definitely be sure to eat. Just eating well-balanced meals. Be sure you are including fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, some source of calcium-rich foods. We know from surveys that we've done of our PC students just in general that very few are meeting their daily requirement of fruits and vegetables. Some have only one fruit or vegetable in a day. Some don't have any in the entire week. And we always want to pitch, the recommendation is 2 fruits every day, 3 servings of vegetables. So those are going to be things that you want to be sure, make it well balanced. And if you do need a snack, these are things to kind of keep in mind. Try to forego the things that we often grab as snacks, things that are candies. Like we might be grabbing chips, or we might be grabbing cookies or some candy. Those are foods that can be pretty calorically dense in calories, but they're really lacking in any nutrients. So when you're thinking about what you're going to snack on, think about how that could enhance your overall nutritional intake. And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be something as simple as having a carton of yogurt and a piece of fruit. That's going to give you some protein, it's going to give you some fiber, it's going to give you some important vitamins and minerals. Just something as simple as getting some whole grain crackers. That could be like Triscuits, or it could be wheat thins, and having that with some cheese or some peanut butter. Again, a whole grain, good source of a healthy form of carbohydrate. You're getting some protein from the cheese, from the peanut butter. Celery sticks, carrot sticks that you're eating with hummus or peanut butter, same thing. You're including a vegetable that we know so many of our PCC students don't get enough of, but also you're getting some additional protein from the hummus. And then also, one of the areas that I think we sometimes feel that we need, but need to be careful about, is use of caffeine. You want to be sensible with caffeine. Caffeine is definitely a stimulant, but a misconception is that it gives you energy. And caffeine doesn't do that. The only thing that can actually give you energy is going to be something that fuels you, like food, or rest, that you get some sleep. Those are the only ways. Now with caffeine, one of the recommendations is to try to keep your caffeine intake to not over about 200 milligrams a day. That's really like 2 cups of coffee. And when you're someone who's not used to drinking coffee or having caffeine, you have to be particularly careful because your sensitivity will be even greater to it. And those are situations sometimes where someone rarely drinks coffee, but they're feeling, I need to have that coffee to keep me awake so I can keep studying. And it will have the effect where the student is so overstimulated because it's going to be really making them have like heart palpitations or feeling anxiety. It can be very frightening, actually. And that's certainly not going to help you to do well with studying or taking a test. So, word of caution. And then finally, be sure to still exercise. We certainly know there's a lot of benefits of exercise in giving us a benefit of just having that sense of wellness with our neurotransmitters in our brain. People tend to feel better when they stay active. It doesn't mean that you have to go to a gym, particularly right now, gyms aren't available. Anything that you can do, like walking, or if you're a runner, just jogging. You've got access to a family pool, swimming. All of those things are going to be helpful, and they do actually make people feel less stressed. And that's part of what you're trying to do as you're getting ready for these finals.
Thanks so much, Lorrie. I mean, as a caffeine drinker, I really got to take your advice there about making sure I watch my caffeine intake. It's been really rough. So thanks for that advice, definitely. So this has all been so informative, and I really appreciate you taking your time to join us. Again, as Nairy said, this is available to students for free. You've been with us. Lorrie, how many years have you been with us? I don't think we mentioned that.
I've been at PCC since 2009. And I'm actually the first dietitian that the PCC ever hired.
So that kind of access is so amazing that students have you to help them with their dietary needs and their physical health. I mean, thank you so much for doing this, and hopefully you continue to do this. So if anyone is interested in nutritional counseling services, please drop us a line in the comments section. We really want to showcase Lorrie and all she has to offer for our students. So please let us know what you think, and let us know if you're interested in nutritional counseling.
Thank you for participating today. Stay tuned for our next session of Healthy Hour. Until then, be safe and stay healthy. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.